And we are back with part two. I don't know why I always feel like stretching at the beginning of these. I feel like I did that in the previous one too, but anyways, I just felt like stretching again just as I announced what, this is going to be about. And this is Custom Robo Review Part 2. When we left off, I guess, I don't know, in the previous video I was talking about, let's see, dialogue and character interactions, and I think that was basically it. And I was listening back, and I'm like, I feel like there's some things I could more succinctly or more, I don't know, put in a better way, put in a way that makes more sense, or put in a way that I agree with more, I guess, because I was very fumbly around, and I was like, I don't know, I've been thinking about it some more. So maybe I'll do after the end of this one, maybe I'll do like a bonus video where it's like, okay, here's some things I talked about in the previous videos, and here's me sprucing them up a bit, and that'll be my ultimate, here's what I said, but revised or slightly better. But maybe I'll do that. I don't know. We'll see. I think I might do that. Anyways, now we get to talk about the really fun stuff. And I guess first, maybe I don't know. I'll talk first about aesthetic, because I think that's easier to. It's easier to, I don't know. Gameplay is such a huger aspect. Aesthetic, I feel like that's not. I mean, aesthetic is big. I don't know what I'm jumping around. But anyways, let's just talk about aesthetic. Okay, aesthetic. This game, it does not look very. It looks pretty cheap. When I first played it, I thought, wow, this looks like a bargain bin game for the Wii or something like that. I don't know. It just had a look of like, wow, this is a really cheap looking game. But so it's got that cheap looking game aesthetic, but then it's also got this and then mixed in that, I guess, elaborating on that, it's kind of like plasticky looking, combined with just not very I don't know, I guess plasticky looking with I don't I don't really know how to describe it. It just has I feel like if most people looked at it, they would know what I'm talking about. And this is not talking about the gameplay, because that's a bit different, but just walking around the world and just the world environment, that kind of thing, does not look great, I don't think. And I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'm being a little harsh, but it's also not a terrible aesthetic. I got used to it, and it, as opposed to just being a bad aspect of the game, it became something that I was like, oh, I can appreciate this, or I don't know, it just became an aspect of the game. This is just how the game looks. It wasn't so much a negative thing. After a little bit, that's kind of how I came to it. Maybe a comparison is Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time for the GameCube, or I played it on the GameCube. I know it's for the Nintendo 64, but on the GameCube, that game also doesn't really look great. People, I don't know. It's just very not. I don't know. It just doesn't look. I don't think it's controversial for me to say that game does not look great graphically, but even with that, I think it does have an aesthetic that one can appreciate, or I don't know, just an aesthetic that's desirable, and something that's worth coming back to just for the aesthetic, and specifically the older aesthetic. I think you would come back to it. Someone might want to come back to the GameCube or Nintendo 64 Ocarina of Time over the 3DS remake, just because the aesthetic is so much. I don't know. It's just a different aesthetic, and I kind of feel similarly, or I don't know. That's just a way to compare. It's just a way to compare Custom Robo's aesthetic, where it's comes off as cheap looking at first. Versus, I would just declare, I don't think Ocarina of Time looks cheap. It just doesn't look great quality. But similar deal of these both have don't less than stellar looking graphics, I guess you could say, or visuals, but it I don't know, over time I came to think of it more as like it's just a part of the game's aesthetic, it's part of the game's appearance. It's like it's a look that someone might miss and might want to come back to, kind of thing. That's how I saw it. And I don't know, that might just be me making a I was gonna say mountain out of a molehill. That's not the right term. Like I don't know. There's got to be some sort of expression for finding the good in something that doesn't really have any good. Like saying something bad is good, but really it's not. I don't know. Maybe that's what I'm doing, but I don't know. I've come to look at the visuals not that negatively. I've viewed it less as this is a cheap looking, bad looking game, and more of like, oh, this is a. I don't. It reminds me of like Gosh, I didn't watch this show. Lazy Town. Kind of reminds me of a Lazy Town look. Lazy Town mixed with like Beyblade, maybe, or Lazy Town mixed with like Pokemon XD, kind of, sort of. Not really. Maybe yeah, Lazy Town mixed with like Beyblade, or I don't know, just a kids anime. Maybe, I don't know. That's a bit specific. It doesn't need to be Beyblade. It has like cheap, plasticky looking visuals, but it's also like very modern and very technologically looking, kind of, sort of. And people are dressed in interesting outfits for the most part, and like kind of anime looking outfits, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. So it's an interesting aesthetic, and that's just talking about the world. Then you have the aesthetic of like playing when you get to the actual battles and stuff. And how do I feel about that? I think it's nice. It's not that differs from the cheap look. That becomes more of a like I don't really know how to describe it exactly. It's like technologic-y sort of, but also not like, I don't know. It's just got it's difficult for me to describe. It's just got that GameCube like. I feel like a lot of or not a lot. I don't know, just of the GameCube games I've played, where like where the game takes place in like a very future modern technology sort of setting, like F-Zero GX or Pokemon XD. Those are the only two that come to mind. Maybe maybe Smash Bros. Melee. Maybe. That's probably not a good example, but yeah, at least F-Zero GX and Pokemon XD, where they take place in a future setting and have this like technologic-y look. I guess it's probably closer to F-Zero GX in terms of how the battles and things look and the appearance of things. That's the only comparison I can think of. And I'm talking way too much, I think, about aesthetics when I don't think it has that huge of a role. Like, it didn't impact me that much, but I do think it's worth talking about, kind of, sort of. But like it's just got that GameCube techie look. And if you know what I'm saying, when my comparison of games that embody that sort of aesthetic would be like F-Zero GX and sort of Pokemon XD, but mostly just F-Zero GX, because yeah, and that techie, robotic, but also like sharp and kind of, I hate to say cartoonish or comic-y. I don't think that's it. And it's not exactly, I don't know. But like, just, it doesn't help that I'm not much of a gamer, so I don't have a ton of stuff to compare it to. Like, I don't know how modern techie games look now. But I don't know. It just has that, like, I guess, cartoony, but in a cool way, GameCube future technology look when you're battling. And so yeah, that's kind of cool. I spent probably a little bit too much talking about aesthetics. It's not. I don't think you're gonna play this and you're probably gonna notice it looks cheap and not great visually. Maybe, or I don't know. That's putting it a bit negatively after I just talked it up a little bit. But I think you'll probably notice that, and you'll subconsciously notice the GameCube-y, technologic-y aesthetic of the battles. But so yeah, that's the aesthetic. I don't think there's anything else worth talking about for that. As for the gameplay, it's very... I have a hard time... I don't know. it doesn't feel great to me. It's like, I guess I probably really have to go into it to describe the gameplay. But so the thing about the gameplay is that you have four method, or I don't know, I think it's four, maybe it's just three. You have shooting, you have bombs, and you have these things called pods, which is just like supplementary bombs. I guess I'll say shooting, rocket launcher, that's a better way to put it, and then these pods that are basically bombs that you send out. And those are your three ways of attacking. Oh wait, and then you also have like I don't know, this weird little physical charge attack sort of thing. It's not really a charge attack. It's just I don't know, just a physical attack, just a physical tackle attack, I guess. And so technically that's you're pretty much mostly just going to be using shooting, rocket launcher, and pods. But the thing about attacking is that for most, usually when attacking, and I'm trying to think of how to most accurately describe it. I'm just gonna talk, I guess. But like I just noticed mobility is very awkward in the battles. Like, because the thing is, the only way you can attack and still be moving and still be in motion, pretty much, is just with the pods, which are supplementary bombs, and it can do kind of cool things, but like I don't think you're supposed to be primarily attacking your enemy with pods. You're supposed to be using your gun primarily, and I do use my gun primarily, but as soon as you shoot your gun or launch a rocket launcher, you basically you can't move anymore. You're stuck shooting or launching your rocket launcher, and you can't move. You're just like stuck there in the shooting animation, and then as soon as you're done with the animation, you can start moving again. But like, yeah, I guess it's a minor clarification, but with shooting, the only mobility you have is if you're running on the ground, you can as you're running, you shoot, and then you do a little slide where you're shooting, and then you slide towards the direction that you were running in slightly. And so, I mean, it's not totally frozen movement, but so yeah, it's just a little awkward where like two of the three methods, and both of them are, I don't know, at least shooting is a huge method of attacking that you're supposed to be using a lot, I think, and it's weird that you're so immobile when you shoot. It just felt kind of awkward, and then combined with that is in the game you have these midair dashes, or I guess depending on the robot you have like multiple jumps, and I just never really got the hang of them, like especially the dashes. Those didn't really work for me. Like, I could make there's this one robot where he's got like teleporting dashes where like he teleports in the direction that he dashes, and so it's kind of like versus if you have a different robot and he just dashes in the air, you can still get hit. But like this guy, he would literally just teleport instead of dashing, and so I could make use of that. I could find ways to utilize that, but overall, even then, still like I just never gotten a fluid way of like feeling like I knew what I was doing, or I was getting in a rhythm of like knowing how to play the game well, I guess, or like especially with the dashes, so that's with the dashes, and then eventually I unlocked a robot with multiple jumps, and I was like, oh, this is cooler. This works for me more, because I don't know, like the thing about midair dashes is you're like, you can't. I don't know. It's been like 2 months since I played, but when you're dashing, I don't think you're able to like fire mid dash or anything. It's kind of like it's literally just a way to move around, and then after you've dashed, you can do something. But like, you can't. It's just like you would use it to get somewhere quickly. You can't use it to like fire and get somewhere quickly, or like be hard to hit while hitting them. It seems like it's primarily a like get to a position and then do something, or get out of the range of fire or something. I don't know, that kind of thing. And so I never really knew how to like use dashes to like I don't know, just benefit me, or like, because even when I would like try and dash out of the way of fire, I don't know how much it helped me versus like I was just getting someplace I don't know how much it actually helped me dodge stuff. Like if I wanted to dodge fire, I could just run on the ground probably, and then so at that point, okay, can I dash to, you know, get behind the enemy or get to a point where I can shoot at the enemy better? And I couldn't figure out how to really do that well, or like use the dashes to help me. I'm gonna drink some water. Ugh. Sorry, I had to swallow. And, yeah. Anyways, yeah. So I had to figure. Yeah, I just didn't get. I wasn't able to figure out how to use dash as well, either for like dodging or attacking. And so, but luckily, you know, you have these robots that instead of dashing, they have multiple jumps where they jump in the air multiple times, and it's still limited mobility kind of. And I still don't really know how to use it properly exactly. I just kind of like jump around a lot. I feel like it's just I guess easier to be mobile in the air maybe, so as opposed to like running on the ground and doing stuff. And also it makes it easier to like fire things like rockets or pods, because you know they'd run into walls if you're on the ground and you're firing them. And so I don't know, that's where I primarily just used robots with multi-jumping functions. But even then, yeah, I never really got the hang of it. I never really got into a rhythm of like, oh, I know how to use this properly, or I know how to use this in a way that consistently feels good, or I know what I'm doing. Just because, again, it's that like, they freeze you every time. You just lose all momentum as soon as you launch a rocket or fire your gun. And yeah, so that whole air aspect of the game was interesting and kind of weird and hard for me to get the hang of. And then on top of that, you just have all the various weapons, and I'm trying to think how I feel about. I don't know. There's just so many different guns and pods and rockets, and I don't know. I'm really trying to. I haven't totally thought about this, I guess, but like, I don't know. Just firing and doing that kind of stuff. It's just hard to. It's just like, kind of, I don't know. It doesn't feel great, I guess. So I don't know. I'm being very vague in general right now, and maybe I should play the game again to really know how I feel. But I just remember it not consistently. I'm talking very negatively about it, and I enjoyed the gameplay. I mean, the battles, they were fine. The biggest aspect, usually more often than not, was just it wasn't super challenging. It wasn't super challenging, combined with the fact that I couldn't really consistently figure out what I was doing or get into a good rhythm of like knowing what feels good to play. And so those two things kind of combined made it difficult for me to really appreciate the battle. And I don't think I have a hard time saying it's objectively bad or anything like that, especially when like I don't know how many games have competitive scenes or whatever, but this game does, and I feel like I'm inclined to think there wouldn't be a competitive scene unless the gameplay was good, and it seems to have the potential for, you know, competition, and I like that. I think that's very cool that like you know, it's not just a simple, I don't know, there's just that the fact that, you know, you can become an expert at this and there's potential. I don't know. I've just that, you know, that I think a game just having a competitive scene is a good sign that like, hey, there's a lot to this game that's complicated and has potential for people to get really good, and even after they get really good, there's no specific threshold where like you've gotten so good that you can't get any better, or that you can't get defeated or anything like that. Like that wasn't the impression I got from the game, or at least from the videos I saw of the game. And so yeah, I can appreciate that, and that keeps me from saying like I think that keeps me from explicitly saying the gameplay is bad. But from my experience, it didn't feel really good, and I don't know, most fighting games I've played, like Smash Bros in particular, it's very fluid, and like, I don't know, it's just very constant moving around, constant dodging things, and even though like, it can be difficult to deal with like expert level players or whatever, like, even when that happens, I still feel in control, and like everything I do is pretty intentional. Versus I didn't get that here, and maybe that's just because I've been playing Smash Bros for so long. Versus Custom Robo, it's such a different experience that I really need to spend a lot of time on it before I can get used to it and feel comfortable. But like, even though I want to say I played like at least 12 hours of it in total, maybe more. Like 12, and that's not gameplay's worth, I guess. I mean, that is gameplay. That's just not battles worth, because a lot of it was just me talking to NPCs or going through the story. But I don't know. So maybe I don't know. But I did play a considerable amount of battles, and it never really felt like I was improving. I mean, I did improve a lot from when I first started playing the game, but like, I don't think I ever. After getting better from the very beginning of the game, I don't think I ever got better after that. Like, I don't think there's been a slow, progressive development of me understanding how to best play the game, or what's a good way of playing it. Like, it's more just like I realized, okay, I realized I should utilize the running and shooting feature where you slide to walls so you can like shoot out in the open and then slide to cover, or I don't know, things like. It's more just understanding things not to do and things to do, or like constantly using my pods and rockets and that kind of thing. I don't know, just more just like, okay, this is the best way to play the game, but not like what feels good to play, or yeah. Anyways, so that's kind of my issue with the battling, and yeah, it's just kind of hard to. It was hard for me to get I don't know, I just didn't like how immobile I was, and I never got a hold of like how to, like, I know I said like I got better at knowing how the game best wanted me to play, but like not completely, not totally, I guess, and not in any way that made it feel good, or like I knew what I was doing consistently. Like there were, I don't know, yeah. But it's still not a bad game, and I think it'd be very interesting to play with other people, because I never got the chance. I mean, I never got the chance to play with people, but I feel like it'd be very interesting to do that with others, because we're on the same level of like, this feels awkward to both of us, and so how do we deal with that, and like, how do you take advantage of the way they feel awkward versus the way you feel awkward, or like, I don't know, just, I think there's potential for very interesting fights between people, but yeah, I never got the opportunity to do that yet, yeah, as far as like the difficulty and stuff like that, I did die like a considerable amount of times, against random opponents, like very, like, sometimes I would just come on a. This was towards the later end of the game, I think, where I would have some troubles. Actually, I don't know. It was kind of spread throughout. Like, there are these, I guess, evil main characters that I would fight them, and there was like a 50-50 chance I would win, kind of thing. Yeah, but I don't know. It didn't feel. It was satisfying to beat them and like to lose and then beat them, sort of, but not that satisfying. Like, I don't know how much anytime I fought an opponent and then lost and then fought them again and then won, I don't know how satisfying it was. Like, more often it kind of felt like things went differently. They just happened to go differently, or I just happened to do things slightly differently, or like just minor. If there was something I noticed to do differently, like maybe the bomb or the tools I chose for the stage were like not suited, and so I just make a subtle change and all of a sudden I'm winning. Or maybe I realize, oh, there's just a subtle way I need to change my attacking or something like that, and after doing that I would win. And I don't know, it just wasn't totally gripping, and it was, I don't know how satisfying I found it, like with regards to challenge. Like, it just seemed like most opponents were, they were going down. There was no question that you would beat them. And then even when I came on those who did beat me, I don't know, it just didn't feel all that riveting to beat them, or I don't know, just change things or do things differently and beat them. I don't know. It just didn't. I don't know. It just didn't feel all that rewarding, and yeah. So, and I mean, so I'm not saying I want it to be like terribly difficult or anything like that. Like just increase the difficulty and make me die more times or something. I don't know if that's the key, because I think the real problem is just I need to find a satisfying way to play the game and like understand what the just understand, I don't know, how to play the game in a satisfying way, or like just get in a good rhythm of where like I feel like I know what I'm doing, kind of thing, I guess. More than just like jumping around, dodging fire, and shooting as much stuff at them as I can, and yeah, I don't know. So but I'm very curious about how it would go with like playing against people, and like seeing how that would go. I'm curious how that would go out, because I feel like that would be more interesting than just playing against computer players, because the computer players, they do attack, and they're not cheesy or bad or lame, really. I mean, they can do stuff, but I don't know, it just doesn't feel all that complicated versus like humans and people. I feel like they would be more like conjuring up of a plan or trying to pull a trick, that kind of thing. Versus I don't know how much computer players do that. However, but I don't know. It'd be interesting to see. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on the gameplay. And it's very, I didn't go into this at all, but I do appreciate the variety of, robots, weapons, parts, I think that's neat, and it allows for personalization. I think that's cool. I think it's a bit oversold, though. Like, when you look at the back of the game case, it's like over 350, or I don't know, probably not that much, but they say it's like over a bunch hundred of weapons and butts and parts to choose from, and I'm like, wow. But like half of them, maybe not half, but like at least a quarter of them don't seem that good. Or like, I can't imagine how I just can't imagine them being great or preferred by anyone over like certain other weapons. It does feel like there are some weapons that are objectively bad and some that are objectively good, that kind of thing, or some that are like only usable in very niche situations. And so for that, I don't think that the custom aspect of it is a huge draw. I think it's kind of cool that like you are able to individualize and personalize your battle style. That's cool, but I don't think it's as interesting as the box made it out. And but there is a variety of, the weapons are not just subtly different. I think they're like pretty considerably different and unique and interesting, and allow for different play styles, and so that's cool. But I don't think like I don't know, like I don't think it's that huge of a draw or that cool. Like yeah, it's just not that that's not the sell of the game for me. Like oh my gosh, there's so many different ways I can customize my robot and like have my own unique robot with his own, like a set of tools and weapons that are unique to my playstyle. Like, I didn't get that feeling. I feel like I don't think it'd be that different than like someone having a main in Smash Bros, that kind of thing. Just because I don't feel like the variety of, I feel like the variety there isn't that many weapons and tools that are all useful. Like, most people are gonna be taking from the same pool of select weapons that are useful and good and stuff. And I'm saying that not having collected every weapon, just because the way you go about collecting weapons is like every 5 or so battles. I don't know, it depends on where you are in the game. So they just give you parts randomly. It seems, kind of. Every few battles you'll get a new part, and I'd say I don't even know if I'm halfway. Maybe I'm halfway through collecting all the parts, but yeah. From all the parts that I did get. And there is a ton more to get, but from all the parts I did get, the impression I was getting is that, most are probably not going to be something that you'll consider, probably. But, yeah. And so, yeah, that's gameplay, and yeah, I wish I could, and maybe, I don't know, if I ever do a legitimate review, maybe I'll go into more details about, like, justifying why the gameplay doesn't feel good, but I think that's probably the biggest thing keeping it from being, and then after that, like, let's say I did get accustomed to playing it and I did like get into a rhythm of like, oh, this feels good and I know what I'm doing now, kind of thing. Like, even after I got to that point, then I probably would want the computer players to be more challenging, because if they become challenging and I don't get accustomed, then at that point it's like I'm just screwing around and I don't really know what I need to do to beat this guy, kind of. Like, the most I can do is just change parts and maybe like try a very broad thing differently. Like, maybe I should try dodging more, or maybe I should try running and shooting more, or shooting my rockets in different locations, which is kind of cool. Like, having that sort of strategy, but like, I don't know, versus like something in Smash Bros. I feel like that's or maybe Dark Souls or something like that, where it's like a lot more, once you get into a rhythm that feels good, it's a lot more perfecting your technique, or perfecting how to counter something perfecting how to counter something, because like, how to play, how to do what you want, sort of. You just need to get better at it, but you know how to do what you want. Versus like here, I don't really know how to do what I want, I guess, or like, yeah, I don't know. I'm being very vague, but yeah. So I think, yeah, that's probably the biggest thing holding the gameplay back. Would be very cool to play with other people to see how that goes, but yeah, overall, yeah, I think it's just gameplays, it's fine, and I've been talking really negatively about it, but that's just because I don't have much. I did enjoy it, but there's not much. It's just a fine level of enjoyment. It's just like, this is mildly satisfying. This is it's kind of cool looking, being a robot firing things at other robots, but and it's kind of technique based, but like, yeah, the only reason I just didn't talk it up is just because I don't have much to say about it positively, even though overall, I'm not like I look forward to and enjoy the battles, and so, but even with that, I just don't have much specifically positive to say about it. So that's why I was talking negatively about it. But yeah, I kind of forgot where I was going. Jeez, what was I gonna say? Yeah, gameplay, it's cool, it's fine, but not very. I don't know, didn't hook me. So yeah, so with all that, that kind of just, yeah, that's the whole game. You got your story, which is mildly interesting, I guess. Not very, but, it keeps you looking forward to the next day and progressing it, I guess. Then you have, the interesting and weird amount of unnecessary work and details that they gave to the dialogue options and people that you can talk to and all that. That's just so weird, and I don't know. I found it very curious and made me make the most of it. It made me I don't know, just spend a lot more time on the game that I didn't regret spending, I guess, sort of. Even though it seemed pretty pointless, I guess, or seems pretty pointless thinking about it, I guess. But I don't know, just the amount of So yeah, that's that, and then just aesthetic is kind of cool. Not really a huge draw. I don't think I'd ever come back to this game for the aesthetic, but it is something that I will remember, and yeah, that's probably the biggest thing I could say about it. And then gameplay, I could just never get a feel for it. Never could get like a handle on what feels good. But it was fine. It was engaging. I looked forward to battles. I could enjoy myself, but not to a huge extent. So yeah, those are my I guess those are my those are the extent of my thoughts on Custom Robo. Maybe I'll do a bonus video where I put things more where I phrase things better, or put things more succinctly, or just I don't know, clarify my thoughts, or take back something. I don't know, maybe. But yeah. Yep, that's it.